Good morning and welcome to Beyond the SEAF. This is effective March 4th, 2024. Let's get started. Our SEAF signals for this week are consumer discretionary, industrials, and technology. Technology really kind of holding on by a thread here. Strategic quarter at 1, tactical at 4, and then this was a very weak trading volume here at 5 for technology at actually almost net zero. We've been kind of talking about order of flows and how strong they are. Consumer discretionary came in as our top weekly flow this week, still relatively lighter than we were seeing on average. We're actually planning on doing a little bit of a study so we can have a little bit better sense of these numbers statistically going forward. And I will be sharing everybody that information next week. Industrials coming in at 2. Just a keynote with industrials, the flow for consumer discretionary was about twice that of industrials. Energy falling in last year with a quick reversal with healthcare. Money kind of really flowing out of healthcare. Again, not to the extreme strength that we were seeing earlier this year with technology, but still relatively strong flows. And it was a bit of an about face for healthcare. Seeing that go from a tactical 2 to the worst weekly flow. Moving on to our heat map, a big positive thing that we were seeing here is consumer discretionary having, that tactical month and that trading week falling in, kind of clumping in a little bit there. Otherwise, as I mentioned, as you can see, there's a lot of muted colors in here. Flows were a little bit weaker. Like I said, technology, while it's ever so slightly green, was very much near zero. So again, not seeing a ton of the clumping up top outside of consumer discretionary that we would normally like to see. Industrials is starting to look like it's heating up, going from that 5 to 3 to 2. Next week, we would like to see industrials have a little bit of a stronger flow to kind of maintain this momentum. But overall, looking relatively good up top. And again, technology kind of holding on by having a little bit of a reversal in terms of going from 1 to 4 to 5. A little bit on the weakness of flows. Going into our rainbow charts for this week, consumer discretionary remains highly favored. We are seeing a nice little upward trend in the relative performance. And if you kind of zoom in here, we can see that this slope is really pointing in the right direction. As we can see previously, if we get this little bit of sustained favored ranking, we do get these nice longer patterns of relative outperformance. So ideally, we continue to watch these flows if we can stay in this favored ranking, flows continue. Hopefully, contest some of these relative highs and the relative strength versus SPY that we've been seeing without any having predictors of the future. It is nice to see though that we are trending in the right direction here. On the flip side, looking at consumer staples. This is kind of when we're talking about strength of flows, and this is why I've been using the heat map a little bit more. We're starting to see consumer staples it came in third, got 893, but the strength of this 3 was relative. Wasn't a super strong 3. So the reason I do a lot of these videos and the reason I bring up these heat maps is I'm trying to highlight a little bit that not only is the ranking important, but also the strength of the flows as they're coming in has some importance. A 3 ranking is great, but without a lot of weight to it, it means a little bit less. And as we can see here, we're starting to trend in the right direction, heading into that neutral ranking, but we're not seeing the relative score versus SPY really peak, and that has a lot to do with even though we had a 3 ranking in the week. We aren't picking up enough momentum in these flows for it to be affected on this chart. So we're going to keep an eye on consumer staples. If consumer staples continues to see inflows, still continues to rank higher, but we also want to see the conviction of a very strong flow, like we saw, like we were seeing with industrials or like we're seeing with consumer discretionary, which is really highlighting our relative outperformance that we're seeing in these charts. Moving on to technology. The reason I want to bring up technology this week is it is weakening a little bit in the flows. Like I said, the net flow on the weekly basis is very close to zero in terms of its change. And as we can see here, kind of a little bit of a stutter step with technology. A little bit of a peak at the end, but overall, relative to this massive move that we had in the relative outperformance over the last year, kind of stalled out a little bit, potentially losing a little bit of momentum. Google had a rough week last week as well. So while technology is favored, we are still seeing a little bit of relative outperformance. And this is slowing down, and that's resulting, mostly from the strength of flows. Energy. I like to show both ends of these coins, right? So, we're seeing energy has been attempting to spike up into neutral a little bit over the last couple of months. Similar to Similar to what we were seeing early last year around the same time. And you can see it in the relative performance, overall downtrend in relative outperformance versus SPY. We really, in order to get this relative outperformance, we need to get into neutral, hang there, and then move our way into the favored ranking. It's just not happening for energy, and it's just we need to see it get up a little bit higher for us to make this involved into our picks. Last but not least, industrials. Just wanted to highlight here. We've been sitting in this kind of middle zone here, where we kind of touch a little bit of void, touch a little bit of favored. Um, we had a nice strong inflow this week. Not as strong as I would have liked to seen it in order to really sustain a nice spike in relative outperformance, but we are trending in the right direction. Kind of starting to lean toward this neutral favored instead of the neutral avoid that we were having for the better part of the last fourth quarter of last year. So very much encouraging to see this get into the favored ranking. We are seeing this positive relative outperformance in industrials, and these charts work. When we look at these charts, we can see when we're sitting in favored ranking, when we're breaking, trending up in the right direction, we do get this relative outperformance. It does correlate. So, really looking to these rainbow charts to kind of identify these opportunities as we move forward with SEAF. That is all I have this week. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and I look forward to breaking down the SEAF model with you next week.